All right, welcome everybody. It's Wednesday night. It is time for another episode of our weekly conversations with Commodores. And we got a special guy here tonight coming out of New Jersey, and he is prepping for the NFL draft, coming in at 6'6", intimidating, but he's a sure nice guy. We got Elijah McCallister. How are you doing tonight, Elijah? Good to see you, and I appreciate you taking some time from your training to be with us tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing great. I love these conversations. We're telling the oral history of the Vanderbilt football program, and we're almost at 200 conversations over the last almost 5 years. So I'm very proud that we've had so many guys and women who are different parts of the program. And we've got other Commodores from different eras scheduled out through late July. So we're continuing to share those stories, and you've got your own unique story that we're going to hop into tonight. So
Sir.
thank you for making some time. In case you don't know, this young man not only played for the Black and Gold and graduated, then found his way to Auburn, where he played for the last 2 seasons, I believe, and now is eligible for the NFL draft in a couple of weeks, and he is busy getting after it. Elijah, we got so much to cover, but I want to go back in the Wayback Machine, and I got two jump off questions. One, when did you hit your growth spurt? And two, what was your favorite sport as a kid? Let's say middle school, coming up through high school years. What sports did you concentrate on? But I got to hear some guys hit those growth spurts when they're like 8 or 9 or 10. Others go from like 6'1" to your height 6'6" when they're like 20.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
take us on that journey, bud.
Well, it's funny because I was 3 months premature, so I was 2 pounds and 1 ounce, and I was a baby. So
Wow.
making it was a long shot, and then if I did make it right, not being as big and having these motor skills that I have was an afterthought. But ever since I can remember, I've always been the tallest and the biggest person in my grade, so I never really had a crazy growth spurt. It's been gradual, but I was think 6'3" in eighth grade, 6'2.5", 6'3" in eighth grade, and then grew to be 6'6", probably about an inch or half an inch every year in high school. So it's just something that I've always just been big because it's all I can remember. And then I'd say growing up, basketball was my first love for sure. I
Mm-hmm.
never really got good at football until eighth grade or my freshman year because I didn't have control over my body. I was always super skinny, super tall, Bigfoot kid. Like I couldn't really control my body, and that wildness can be tamed in some ways playing basketball. But football, you can't really do that because you got to hit people, you got to move, and then you have detailed movements. In basketball, you can get away with it. So basketball is my first love for sure, and I played it my whole entire life. It's a sport that I still love to watch and try to play on some free time, and something that still is near and dear to my heart.
Did you, when you were learning both sports coming up through high school, were you a basketball player trying to play football or a football player trying to play basketball?
I was always a basketball player trying to play football. Basketball came natural to me. It always has.
Mhm.
Just my footwork, my athleticism, my size, just me being able to move around and time different blocks and be able to score at a high rate. It's just something that I can do for fun without thinking. It's something
Mhm.
that I could just free flow and do. Whereas football, it took me a little bit to understand the game. It took
Mhm.
me a little bit to understand my body and how football works within my body, what position I want to play, and different things like that. So I was always, I'd say, at first a basketball player playing football, but now, I'll nullify that because I wouldn't, say I'm a little tougher than that at this point.
Well, I was going to say, at what grade, or did you have a moment when you got popped in the mouth or something happened that surprised you on the football field? And it's like, man, I got to toughen up here because we're not playing basketball anymore. I got to hit or be hit. Do you
I'll
have
tell
some
you,
of those moments?
yeah, I'll tell you the first memory I have of that kind of moment is we're practicing for the state championship in New Jersey as a freshman. I'm a freshman, and I start at wide receiver for our varsity football team, preparing for the state final. And it's freezing cold. In New Jersey, we play our state championships in December for football. So you could imagine, I mean, it is freezing cold, monsoon, 10 degrees, rain, sleet, hail, whatever it is. And it's like that throughout the whole practice week to the point I have to take bathroom breaks because I can't even stand outside of practice for 2 hours because my body, like, I can't do it. Like, coach, like, let me go to the bathroom and stay in there 15 minutes to come out. And again, I'm a freshman on a team amongst seniors and stuff. And then the um, state championship game, I'm outside and it's a monsoon. It's raining, it's wet, and I'm out there playing against seniors. We end up winning state. But that was a core memory for me and something that kind of, I say toughened me up or was my welcome to football moment because I had to change my mindset in that state. I wasn't in a comfortable control gym. I wasn't playing with guys my age. I wasn't particularly playing a sport I was really, really good at and could do at ease. And the weather was horrible, right? So it's something that I feel like that was my welcome to a woman for sure.
I'm just envisioning you were probably didn't have enough body fat to keep yourself warm.
At all.
And did that take you out of the mindset that you needed to be in as a wide receiver and hopefully playing? Did it, or were you able to focus enough to do the job you needed to do, even though you were so completely frozen?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, was able to focus because I knew it was important to the older guys on the team. I didn't really understand the magnitude of going to a state championship and trying to win it, but I could see how much it meant to other guys on the team. And for me, it was like I didn't want to let them down. At my age, I'm 14 or 15 at the time. I'm still trying to figure out, what my passions are in life, what
Uh-huh.
high school's like. And I'm, first, handful of months in school, I'm in a state championship in December in a monsoon. And with these guys, I'm looking around who are 18, about to go off to college. I'm
I
like, man,
was I was
what
gonna
is going
say
on?
you're still playing video games and hadn't shaven yet, and these are
Yeah.
men ready to go to war.
Yeah. And I'm like in the locker room trying to figure out how to, I don't even know, what I'm saying? You just got, and
Yeah.
football is different. It's something where, not a lot of guys, play varsity as a freshman. The learning curve is
Right.
a lot different, whether that's weight wise, speed wise, just
Mhm.
understanding your body. Whereas basketball is a little more interchangeable. So that was just, something that, helped my life for the better.
Well, as you went through high school, did you maintain both playing both sports, or did basketball fall to the side at some point and football become more important to you?
I maintained playing both sports. I led the state of New Jersey in block shots for 2 years in basketball. So I was always really athletic and good timing and really good defender. Then I obviously continued to play football and work towards getting scholarships at both sports and just decided to focus on football in college because I felt like I was more unique in that space. Whereas there's a lot of guys that look like me on the
Yeah.
basketball court that may be a little more athletic in terms of their quick jump or their basketball athleticism agility is a little different. Where football, there's not a lot of guys with my athleticism and my size, so just being able to maximize that was the reason why I chose football. But I played both throughout my whole life.
I was going to say, in the football locker room, you didn't exactly blend in given your height.
Yeah,
In the basketball locker room, I can see, if
exactly.
you had other guys. No, that certainly makes sense. When did you feel comfortable on the football field where you were not having to think through all of the movements and the actions, where you just became an athlete and just started doing as opposed to thinking through it all?
Yeah, I mean, my sophomore year, just I scored in the first game of the season my sophomore year at home against a rival, and we beat up on them pretty good. I think the score was 35-0 or 35-7, and I scored that first game, first career touchdown.
Mhm.
Just something that meant the world to me, and it got me that confidence. Just being able to, a year or two, I already had my first scholarship offer under my belt, and it was something where everybody was expecting me to be somebody that honestly I didn't know that I
Mhm.
was because I never really had control of my body, didn't really lift weights, just a raw athlete. And getting that weight room in the summer with my coach and scoring that first touchdown the first game of the year, my sophomore year, was just kind of, the icing on the cake and understanding, okay, this is the journey that I can take to be successful.
You keep mentioning you're getting your feet under you and stuff like that. It's the image that I always conjure when they talk about young athletes who haven't grown into their bodies yet or hadn't mastered what their bodies can do athletically. It's like a deer on ice.
Yes.
Just you don't have any of that control just yet. Well, that's what talk to me about those scholarship offers, because you're such a unique athlete, particularly given that you had grown pretty quickly and you're from a exposure standpoint when you're playing as a freshman on varsity and your team is in the state finals and you're one of the contributors, you're going to get on the radar. All of these things came together, but which sports were folks really coming to you for, or was it both of them?
Yeah, it was honestly both of them. And when I go speak to, younger kids, I always tell them like, being a freshman I started on varsity as a freshman in both sports, and both my teams went to state finals that year. Won it in football and lost it in basketball. But it's something where, and I tell them that it doesn't pat myself on the back, but it speaks to the athlete I was at that time,
Mhm.
and I wouldn't say the pressure that I had, but the standard that I set for myself to continue to
Mhm.
uphold throughout the course of my high school and college career. But offers came in both sports, and for me, it always felt like, again, from a football standpoint, I was more unique in that space, and that's kind of the route that I was going to take. And then the scholarship offers, like I said, I got my first one, football from Temple my
Mhm.
freshman year, and then basketball got off from Colgate my freshman year. Then they kind of started stacking up where I had 20 offers in both after my sophomore season, and it was something where for me, I would always, try to understand like everybody's like, you got to pick one, you got to pick one. I'm like, I'm just a kid. I like playing both. Like, why do I have to pick? I wish I could just do it all, but and I started to gain more weight, lift,
Mhm.
start getting more passionate about football and stuff, I kind of took that route, and that was also a route that I had to choose as well because some schools wanted me to play offense, some schools wanted me to play defense because I was such a big athlete and do a
Mhm.
lot of different things.
Mhm. Well, I know you come from a very accomplished athletic household, and we're going to get to them in just a second. But related to that, how did, and this is my term, how did you, or maybe you did, how did you not get the big head, so to speak, as a freshman or an early sophomore? Not look at me kind of a mentality. I don't, we hardly know each other, but I don't think that was you back then. But talk about the house, your family influence, or maybe a coach or somebody who helped keep you grounded.
Yeah, I'd say the family influence. The reason why I'm so grounded is because who I am is rooted in my faith, and how I walk into every single space is presenting God, and like that space is sacrificial space, right? So when you go to church, everybody's serving each other for the greater good to learn the Bible and for God. So that's kind of how I've always been wired, and my parents would never let me be that way. And that's always how I've carried myself in a humble, servant leadership way through the lens of Jesus Christ. And then that kind of fuels me to be who I am now today and being humble. But, something that I've always, done and been because that's just how I was raised. And it, allowed me to just be more reserved. Plus, it's something that I've always dreamed about. I used to watch, instead of watching TV shows in high school, I used to go look up full games on YouTube and just sit there and watch all day. So it's something that I dreamed about and something that I was passionate about. So it wasn't something to get a big head about. It was more so like appreciate the journey, appreciate where I'm at. Because I used to watch, you know, these guys play, and now I'm getting recruited on recruiting visits, seeing them shaking their hands in the locker room. It's kind of like an appreciation.
It's probably like a wow moment too at times, but they're also doing that to you secretly. Um,
Exactly.
I want to give you guys I want to fast forward for 2 seconds and kind of share a moment that you have no idea what I'm about to say. Having watched you at Vanderbilt all those years and then at Auburn for a couple of years, I was watching an Auburn game this year and you had made a great play. I don't remember who y'all were playing. That's the thing that I can't remember. And then you jumped up and it was very uncharacteristic because you made like this, that was an awesome, you were hyped. You were so happy, glad of the moment, and your teammates were glad for you too. But then just as soon as you did that, like a split second later, you just went back into the no, I'm going to call it the normal Elijah mode. It was like you checked yourself. It's like,
Yes.
all right, got to move on to the next play. But I love that for just that second of seeing that because it was a hell of a play. And then you checked yourself right on the. Nobody said anything to you. You could just see it. And I know that you maybe don't remember that exact play because I really can't remember the team, but you know what I'm talking about. You just it was a rare show of real emotion and passion that I know you have in here.
Exactly. And it's funny that you say that because I think sometimes, people get enamored by how big we are and the stage that we play at. But at the end of the day, like when you make those plays, those are the plays that you dream about as a kid. So that's that for me, that's that
Oh,
little kid standing up and just being happy and excited. I just, playing in front of the best, you know, fans in the country and just being able to be, playing college football and making a play. It's like that little kid standing up was like applauding me and just, screaming, jumping for joy inside. So it's just something that you kind of let out a little bit with no, understanding of why, just appreciation for yourself and where you've been.
it's so great that you just described it that way because that emotion, that raw emotion of I just did what I had envisioned, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. And Elijah, you could have been an 8-year-old playing in the yard with your buddies. You could have been an 18-year-old on the field for Vanderbilt, or you could be a 28-year-old pro playing for the Colts or whomever. That's still in there.
Yeah.
Now, how it comes out may be a little different at times, just given where you're playing. But I saw it for a split second. I'm like, man, I love that about that guy. I love that.
Yes, sir.
Guys, I got Elijah McAllister, played for the Black and Gold, also played for Auburn, and now he's prepping for the draft. But we're not there yet. We're not even at the Vanderbilt years. I want to talk about your last 2 years in high school. You're a multi sport athlete who is gaining all kind of recognition. How did you maintain that balance between the athletics that you so crave and love and enjoy with the academic requirements, not just of your high school, but probably in the household, and with whatever social or church or whatever you had going on? How did you learn that balance as a high schooler?
Yeah, I mean, I think, honestly, going to Rumson Fairhaven Regional High School prepared me to do that. We have a rigorous, schedule in terms of our academic. And also, I think the stat when I was there is like 85% of students play sports at that school. So everybody is involved in something in
Mhm.
the community, in the athletic programs, and also the academic, schedule is ridiculous. So that kind of helped keep me grounded, helped keep me focused and balanced because I had to. Like I wasn't gonna make it on either side if I didn't. And
Mhm.
I had a ton of people, whether that's coaches, teachers, or parents that saw something in me and allowed me to continue to stay on that path of greatness per se, but more so stay grounded and stay on the right path to continue success on both spectrums and all spectrums. And that sacrifice is something I don't take lightly, and I will never forget because it's particularly some coaches and teachers that stuck their hand out and helped me to maintain and make sure that I was doing the right thing that allows me to sit in this seat today.
It's that support system that we never forget about, because those coaches or those teachers, they've been where we were at some point in our young lives, and they see the potential in you. And that's the beautiful thing about them lifting you up and helping you along your journey. And it's not easy, though, Elijah, to instill those priorities of what I got to do when I got to do it, because when we're growing up as teenagers, we just want to have fun and go be with our buddies or our girl or whatever. You don't always want to be on task, is my point.
Yeah,
And sometimes you can come through a school system and have a 4.3 and this and that, but that doesn't mean you're prepared for Vanderbilt. It doesn't. And we're going to get to that component, but I want to pause that, but I want to talk about your recruiting process. How did you ultimately narrow it down to Vanderbilt versus any other school? You talked about the basketball versus football mindset, but how did you ultimately decide on Vanderbilt?
yeah. So I decided because firstly it was a decision I had to make internally whether I wanted to play a tight end or defensive end in college.
Mhm.
So once I decided to play defense, that kind of cut my school list in half. And then
Mhm.
I wanted to make sure I was going to a university that allowed me to grow and be in different cultures and be in different spaces that I think I never would be if it wasn't football. So that cut the list to not the Northeast where I was from. That
Mhm.
cuts a lot of the ACC out, and then that moves me to the SEC and Big Ten. And I don't know if you know, but majority of people from the tri-state area go to the Big Ten or the ACC. So I'm like, man, I'm not going to the Big Ten. So that leaves me with the SEC and playing defense. And Vanderbilt was that perfect match with allowing me to be in a city that was fast growing, allow me to play defense, allow me to play in the best conference in the world, and then also continue to grow outside of my sport and just kind of just married up everything that I wanted to do in life.
Who was your recruiting coach, or who was the in charge of your recruiting?
Yeah, so Coach Mason really handled my the bulk of my recruiting, to be honest, because I was such a high priority for them. I would talk to Coach Mason almost every day, and he came to my house all the way up in New Jersey for a home visit. And that meant the world to me because, most of the times, most SEC programs don't even look at anybody from the Northeast because they particularly don't have to be honest. But for him to not only recruit me, but come see me in person was very important to me. So really, Coach Mason was my main recruiter. And him and my dad had some great conversations.
That's awesome. I don't know if this is a stretch. I'm a big baseball fan of Vandy Boys and Coach Corbin. And I don't know if there's any correlation here at all, but I know historically, Coach Corbin has recruited tons of guys up the Eastern Seaboard, all the way up into Massachusetts. And I'm wondering if any of that has influenced then Coach Mason or maybe Coach Lee now to expand into that part of the country, looking for athletes like yourself.
Yeah, I feel like it may have because I know all coaches talking. It very well should because there's a lot of great athletes up there in that Northeast region, and also some tough kids who honestly want to prove themselves down south that they can hang with these boys down here, and it's something that has worked greatly for Coach Corbin because you get a different kind of athlete, from the Northeast. I think you get a really tough blue collar mindset kid coming
Yeah.
down here ready to work, which is pay dividends for Coach Corbin. And I think it pay dividends for Coach Mason here and also, Coach Lee here as well. And he's recruited that way as well. If you look at his Notre Dame teams and his defenses, he's had a ton of New Jersey guys, and
Mhm.
these guys as well. So
Um, two related things. One, how long, and you got to be honest here, how long, well, let me ask you this. Had you been spent any time in the South before being recruited by Vanderbilt?
no.
All right. Then that leads me to the next question. And you got to answer honestly. How long did it take you to get used to the humidity in the South?
Still not used to it, to be honest, because
Now,
going
look, you just spent 2 years in the heart of humidity in Auburn, Alabama. I know that that's no joke, but what was your welcome to the South time period when you were trying to train outside?
it's just the consistency of the humidity. Like it's something that New Jersey gets hot, yeah, but I mean, we would work out, take a shower, walk to class, and be sweating like I just worked out because I just walked to class. It's so humid. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't even get comfortable in the clothes that I was ever sitting in because I'm always sweating. And that's something that I was not used to. And, just having those dog days of fall camp and just looking up at the sky and you're like wondering why is it hot? Like you don't even know what you're doing. You're kind of just working hard, but you just know it's hot. So it's something that honestly I'm still not used to because it was a lot different going from Nashville to Auburn because the humidity was spiked up. And I thought it was a myth. Guys telling me, man, it's nothing like this Alabama heat. I'm telling you, we had guys cramping. I'm like, can't be that different. I just played in the SEC. Come on now. And sure enough, in the summer, I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm doing down here, honestly, because it's so hot.
You know, those days when you have to work out, then go to class, I call those, that's a two changes because you're going to change after you shower, but then you got to change after that to really get somewhat more comfortable.
I'm
So
sweating.
it's so true, Elijah. When I came in, we had guys from the Northeast, from mainly Chicago area, who were fabulous athletes and it could run like the wind. But the great equalizer was that humidity, and those guys are getting packed in ice and falling out until they get used to it. And you got to just drink water. I mean, you've learned you got to have those electrolytes. But
Got to.
let's go to you get serious about Vanderbilt. You come down either for an unofficial visit during the season or an official visit. Take us a little bit through that. Now you're so young, and I mean this as a compliment. And I have no doubt this does not apply to you, but I have to say it with every guest. The statute of limitations is still applicable for anything you may or may not admit to have done in Tennessee. So tread lightly. I know that's not an issue for you, but I have to say it.
Fair, very, very fair.
So talk about your visits down to Vanderbilt or to Nashville and your impressions when you got here or when you got there.
I took an official visit down here in December, and it was something, that was important to me. I got down here in the first official visit weekend, and this was Coach Mason was the head coach, and yeah, Jason Tarver as defensive coordinator, Andy Lowick as offensive coordinator, and this was the group that, if I'm not mistaken, was Coach Mason's highest rated recruiting class ever while he was at Vanderbilt. And it's something that I want to be a part of. I knew the recruits they had committed. I knew the guys, that are really good athletes. The state of Tennessee, like Cam Johnson, Gavin Stonewall, Brandon Harris, that were highly
Mhm.
rated recruits from the state of Tennessee that were could have gone anywhere and committed to Vanderbilt. And then guys like myself, Max Worship, different guys, from Florida, New Jersey, guys trying to come along and add to that, you know, firepower from the state of Tennessee and add to the best recruiting class in Coach Mason's history at Vanderbilt. So that's something that struck me and stuck with me forever. I want to be a part of something special. I want to change the trajectory of the program.
Well, it's Cam has been on the show a few years ago, and we know he went to Arizona State, then Northwestern, where one of my teammates is the current athletics director, Derek Gragg. So Cam's had a good career and a interesting path, that's
Yes.
for sure. Was Ben a Bresnahan in your class, or was he a year?
Yeah, Ben was in my class. I don't remember if he was on my visit, but he was definitely in my class. And him and I are pretty close.
Yeah, Ben has been on the show, and I think a couple others from your class. But how much, you've grown up in the age of social media, and all of that can be very helpful, but it can also be a hindrance to young athletes growing up. A lot of guys want to build their brand and show their highlights and things. Was that part of your world in high school? Was it important to you? Did you utilize any recruiting services or no?
No, because I come from a small high school that, one of maybe two or three people to go play Division I football. So I didn't really understand the idea of getting recruited. When my dad told me I had a full ride scholarship to Temple after my freshman year. During my freshman year, I didn't really know what it was. I didn't understand it. So that side of things wasn't something I was really focused on. I was focused on just having fun and playing college football, college sports because that's what I watched.
Mhm.
Super Bowl day. I didn't really understand what that was, how that came about, but the other things I didn't really worry about, and probably because social media and IO wasn't as big as it is now, um, and the stuff we posted on Instagram was more funny than it is like showing your highlights
Mhm.
back in the day. So it's just different, but yeah, I was never really too worried about all that.
You mean you didn't graduate with 2.8 million followers on Instagram and
Like
have all
TikTok
these?
and all that, it wasn't like that. We didn't have none of that.
What, you weren't the Zion Williamson of New Jersey football at the time on Instagram?
No, man.
You do. There are those guys that are on one end of the spectrum or the other, and they sometimes you worry: are they more interested in building their brand and making their money, or are they more interested in honing their craft and becoming better and being able to compete more? So you get to Vanderbilt, and is it what you expected, or was it more, less? Were you disappointed? What was it like, the first weeks and semester that you're there?
Yeah, it was everything I expected and then some. I love the guys in the locker room. I love the city. I love how we were competing, on the field, and that first year, honestly, is a year for all Vanderbilt fans that I wish that I had back and they had back because,
Mm.
in my humble opinion, that's the most talented Vanderbilt team, probably top 3 or 5 ever, and I don't even think it's close. Based off our record and the games we played, and with a couple tweaks, I feel like we could have, done much better. And I like to think that you see all these freshmen playing now at various different programs. We were the highest rated recruiting class in Vanderbilt, the Coach Mason ever, and up there ever. And 98% of our freshmen couldn't sniff the field because we had guys like Keyshawn Vaughn, Kari Blasingame, Kyle Shermer, Jared Pinkney, Kalijah Lipscomb. You had stars all the way around. Dio Dengbo was young. He was still trying to fight for snaps. You had proven Jawan Williams. You had proven NFL players, proven athletes, proven SEC caliber players on that roster. And it was everything I
You,
expected because it worked.
you just named five NFL guys
Yeah.
right there.
Like real pros. And it's something that, again, it was everything I expected because I love the guys in the locker room. The older guys really, taught me how to be a better person, a better player.
Mhm.
The coaching staff was great. We had a really talented roster, and I was able to, learn about myself on and off the field and challenge myself academically. So it was everything that I could have expected, honestly.
How was the academic transition that first semester?
Yeah, it was a little tough for me because I was so focused on wanting to play and
Mhm.
didn't have that understanding of how to balance the learning of the playbook and still learning the things that I'm passionate about and studying. I didn't understand that, I had an idea of it in high school, but I didn't understand how different it was in comparison to other schools like Vanderbilt, something where college, you don't have your mom waking you up telling you got to go to class. You don't have your mom checking your report card or anything like that. You kind of can just not go to class and not turn assignments in, and you won't know it until you're failing the course at the end of the semester. And it's something where I never got, you know, down in that space, but it's something where I could easily fall victim to the freedom that we had. So it was something that was difficult transition the first semester.
How much that first semester, if you can remember, or even that first year, were you relying on teammates, making sure you're up, making sure you're getting stuff done? And how much were tutors involved or any other support on campus for you and the guys who came in your year?
Yeah, I mean, it was something that we utilized tutors a ton. Like I still, like it's funny, you got your memories on your camera roll, and I always look back and memories pop up. And we got a tutor session with like me, Tyler Steens, and he'll play for the Eagles now, and Max is one of my good friends, and like
Okay.
4 or 5 of us in a tutor session, trying to learn about economics. We're all in there like head spinning, all from different areas of the United States, and trying to figure out how we're going to pass econ. But it's something that we utilize tutors a ton,
Yeah.
twice a week, and also teammates was important to making sure you're on schedule, on time, and prepared. In this day and age, and again, from being a young guy to a captain at Vanderbilt, a captain at Auburn, I see the differing sides of athletes. But it used to be a rule, an unwritten rule, a serious rule would be like, I do not leave my room unless my roommate is right next to me. I don't care what time his class is, when his workout is, different workout times. If he likes to snooze his alarm and get up 15 minutes after me, I'm not leaving my room until he leaves with me. Like it's that simple because that's my guy. We got the same obligations. Whereas nowadays, it's totally different. A guy will leave his own roommate when his good friends in the room because he likes to snooze his phone for an extra 5 minutes. I'm like, the extra 5 minutes isn't gonna change. And now guys show up late to workouts. They don't get to class on time, but it's just the day and age we live in. But it was very important and imperative for the teammates to be involved, make sure on time prepared to show you how to live right. And then tutors definitely were needed, definitely freshman year.
Well, it's freshman year, whether you're redshirted or not, it's such a growth year. Did you miss home? Did you have time to miss home? Did family come down to visit during the season?
Then our freshman year, I feel like I didn't miss home because I was living the dream that I've always set out for myself, So I wasn't really focused on, missing my family. I was kind of focused on appreciating the space that I was in. It's just like not that I made it, but I was like, wow, I did something that I've always dreamed of. And then also partly because I really couldn't miss home so far that even if I did miss home a little bit, it didn't matter because flights cost a ton of money and it was a 13 and a half hour drive. So it wasn't something I could really do, miss or
Yeah.
even, lose sleep over. And I was able to see my family during parents weekend, Thanksgiving that freshman year, which was good. But it's still
Did they come down for Thanksgiving or did y'all get to go home for a few days?
they came down for Thanksgiving. So, and it was also that first year we were in that Texas Bowl, and I didn't really know. I was a freshman in college, so I didn't really know whether we were gonna have time off. But I didn't know. I didn't have a car, so I was kind of just staying down there, and they were able to come down and see me and be there in Houston for the game, and it was something that I appreciated.
One thing that I'm always curious about, when you come home at the end of that first semester, when you've played your freshman year and you've gone through the workouts and you've eaten through the training table, and you're going to most likely have gained either muscle weight or you're just a bigger guy. Now, here's my question. When you first got around your neighborhood friends and your classmates you go to a party or whatever at home, how much of a fuss did they make about how much bigger you were when you got home?
Yeah, it was a bit ridiculous, and I think the person that was most happy was my high school strength coach because I was a person that had a basketball body. I rarely lifted, and I left high school at 6'6", probably about 215, 220. And then I came back after that first year, probably about 245. So it was something where I looked a lot bigger. My neck was bigger, my arms were bigger, my leg, everything was just. And even I remember just when we would go back, lift my guys from home because you got to get a couple workouts in while you're at home. You can't just
Yeah.
eat for me, New Jersey pizza and bagels the whole time. So
Yeah.
we got a workout, and they couldn't believe the depth I was getting on my squats, how much weight I had on my back, and different things like that. So it was just kind of comical because it's something that I don't think they could have imagined. I definitely couldn't have imagined. So
Mm. Well, that's the benefit of a Division One SEC sports and conditioning program.
yes, for
Um,
sure.
yeah, we all have those funny interactions. I ended up, even though I was a quarterback and I gained too much weight my freshman year, I ended up putting one of my buddies through a sheetrock wall accidentally while we were playing billiards at his home. But anyway, oh, it was terrible. It's terrible. Elijah, you're starting to get those feet are now under you, and now you're starting to show folks freshman year transitioning to sophomore year. At what point? And I love to always find out. I've already asked you on the high school level, but on the college level, one, had you settled into a position that Coach Mason or the defense needed you to really um, develop into? And when did you find yourself either in a game or a practice just being an athlete, not thinking through it, just reacting? Do you remember kind of a I'm here in your mind and being controlled? And I know that, but did you have a moment or a time where you really felt more comfortable playing the position?
Yeah, I settled into that 3-4 stand up outside linebacker role for the team that sophomore year, and
Mhm.
I was in a room. Well, it was kind of both ends and stand up ends. So I was in a room with again two NFL players and Andre Mintz and Dio Dengbo. So
Mhm.
I was number 3 on the depth chart behind those guys. But I always knew I had the ability to play because I would make plays in practice, and I ended up playing a lot that season and starting on third down packages over some of those guys and rotating them with those guys throughout base down packages. So I always had confidence in my ability. It's something where I felt comfortable after the spring game. I had a really good spring game that year, and I felt comfortable, but I still didn't really know what the season was going to look like for me and how that was going to translate because I wanted more. And then I'll never forget first that year was actually the first game of the year. We played Georgia in August, actually, August 29th or 28th. First game of the year is a Georgia team that just came off of playing in the college football playoff the year before. And I was in December or January, whenever I was at home with my friends watching Georgia play Bama that year in the college football playoff. And then that first game of that next coming year, I played against Georgia
Mhm.
and some NFL talent. I was still like, bullets were flying. I didn't know what was going on, right? And then fast forward to the first, well, not the next game, next home game, I ended up having 2 sacks against Northern Illinois, a really good team that became below eligible that year. I had 2 sacks, my first double-digit sack game in college, and it was something that built confidence within myself and within my teammates, and that I could really do this. And then just that joy that I had, and I really felt comfortable after that game because I done played against the best of the best in Georgia. They had 2 first-round tackles that year that I played against the first game of the year, and then I had 2 sacks the next week or the week after, and I just felt comfortable. I felt like I had my feet on me.
We all have, as athletes, that quiet confidence in our abilities. But it's not until we get into those competitions and we test ourselves do we realize we're going to build on that confidence, or we still got a ways to go. We need to work on some stuff. And that's when doubt creeps in a little bit until you see the success. I was at the Northern Illinois game, and I know that had to have been a springboard for you to just allow you to, even though your bullets are flying, as you said, you see that you can do it and you can do it on the highest level. Did that Was that there for you at that point?
Yeah, especially because where I was at in my career, I really, I didn't play defense to my senior year of high school. And it was in my third year ever playing defense. It was my first year weighing anything above 240. And
Mhm.
really, I was on my second position coach. So I was just new to everything. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just going out there being an athlete. To do that against a very good opponent wearing the black and gold meant a ton to me in the midst of, I didn't know at the time, but in the midst of NFL players
Mhm.
in the locker room in the same room as me, just felt great and just again built that confidence to be able to have no fear.
Well, sure, sure. I, I never am very comfortable in bringing this up, but because you're no longer on the current roster, you've graduated and you're moving on. I always want to ask, and this is for most of us throughout Vanderbilt's years, we have the ups and downs with success, but a lot of us don't win a lot of games during our years at Vanderbilt, and that impacts the culture. It impacts the locker room. And if you don't want to answer this, that's I certainly respect that. But what I want to know, how did the team respond when you're in the midst of a losing streak or the season is not going as well? Did those leaders in the clubhouse, did the captains, yourself included, how did you react with the others? Because not everybody's going to be a good teammate at this point. They're frustrated. They may vocalize, they may loaf on a play or be a distraction. And I know that's kind of a weird thing to ask, but it's so important for the culture of the program as a whole. How did you guys deal with stuff like that?
Yeah, and this is a great question, and I think this is why, in my opinion, that leadership is much more important, and people are much more important than some may give credit for versus talent.
Mhm.
Because everybody's talented. We all got recruited to play in the same conference. So the talent is there. It's about what's going to separate you in times of
Mhm.
uncomfort, disappointment, whatever in between. So I learned a lot those first couple of years from the older guys and how they led. And I was a captain as well. There needs to be a balance. Talk about balance this whole time throughout this, call. There needs to be a balance. So you need to understand and have your standards, your process, and the way you go about every single week in order to set yourself up to win the game, regardless of the opponent. You must stay consistent with that throughout the whole entire year. What you can't do is become numb to the losing and just stick to that process and stay on the same course and act like nothing happened. There's a balance between that. You must balance to understand that regardless of your circumstance, like your standard must be your standard, regardless. But also you must have a little bit of fire inside you, a little bit of competitor in you, maybe a lot probably, to understand that I don't like this feeling. I don't want this feeling again. You must show that to the guys that this is not okay. So that balance of understanding that your standard precede anything, that your process will always lead you to victory, regardless of your opponent or last week or next week's
Yeah.
performance. And then just having a bit of, understanding internally within the locker room within yourself that losing is not okay. You cannot become numb to it, that you must, stay together. The only way we're going to get through this is, being together. So,
And that's a beautiful explanation, and I appreciate that insight from you. For those who didn't play the sport, but they're fans, and or some are fanatics, and they know everything. Coach, why didn't you do this? Coach, why they get on the call-in shows. What they don't appreciate, if you hadn't played, you hadn't been in that clubhouse, that locker room, gone through it. It drives the fans a little batty if they see a team, Vanderbilt, play very tough against a Georgia, a top opponent, in 1 week and only lose by a small margin. But then we play a lesser opponent and then fall apart and lose by 30. I've always been of the mindset from my experiences and just being around the sport all these years. That's a leadership issue. That's a coach's leadership, that's a player's leadership issue. And you've got this brings me to my point. Elijah, I'm kind of shifting over to Auburn experience a little bit. I don't know of another athlete who has been the captain of his or her team at two Division I SEC programs like yourself. And that's a huge pat on your back. And I applaud you and I applaud those around you for recognizing that in you. And I know this is a very long-winded wind up or lead up. Leadership is not easy. For some, it's taught, for others, it's inherent or it's trained. If I'm a Vanderbilt current player or I want to be recruited, I'm interested in Vanderbilt. And that's where I'm putting you on the spot a little bit. I want you to expand a little bit more about the responsibilities because you can turn down being a captain. You don't have
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
You can be elected, but you don't have to take it. But there's a lot of responsibility there. So I want you to share a little bit about the responsibility of being a captain, a leader of your program for two programs.
yeah. That's a great question. And honestly, I it comes down to the first thing is always consistency. You cannot waver. When you have that senior chest, when you're a captain, you're a leader, similar to a head coach, an athletic director, CEO of a company, the head of the family, whoever, right? You must be consistent throughout in spite of your circumstance because that's you're the tempo, you're the heartbeat of everything that goes. So, in spite of how you feel, your feelings can't, particularly change what you're doing, what's going on, how you present yourself, how you are a leader, what's going on in the outside world, whether you win, lose, you know, different sports, draw, whatever, it cannot, dictate how you move through your process and how consistent you are. Because at the end of the day, that's what you have to hang your hat on. Being a leader takes consistency every single day, day in and day out, in spite of the outside circumstance. So that's one of the main things I say is important to be a leader. And that's something that honestly can be taught. Now, the type of leader you are can't be because that's just who you are internally. I'm more of a charismatic connector, I like to say. So I enjoy learning about people. I know every person's locker room name, where they're from, and something about them, and just that's important to me because those people are my people, right? They're my teammates. That's important to me, and I'm also just naturally just charismatic in who I am. But some people are more internal and reserved, and that's okay. There's leadership spaces and styles for that as well. But at the end of the day, it takes consistency because most people can't be consistent because they don't know how to get out their own way, and that separates the leaders from people who aren't leaders. But yeah,
You've got sheep and you've got shepherds. And it's those shepherds that have to pull back in those stray sheep sometimes and get them back in line. And it's so true. But one of the things that you do so beautifully off the field and is going to so benefit you well after you're retired from the NFL is that networking component that a lot of people do not have the internal makeup of their personality that allows them to network. Why is networking at Vanderbilt, at Auburn, and now as you're preparing for the draft, why is that important for your future?
yeah, it's important because not only in my future but anybody's future because nobody gets anywhere in life alone. Like your mother and father, they made you. Your friends shaped who you are. Your environment shapes you for who you are. Where you go to school, how you learn, different things like that. Nobody gets anywhere alone. So being able to connect with different types of people may, one, propel you to be in different spaces that you never thought you'd be in. But two, most importantly, you're able to learn in different perspectives and different sides of all aspects of life. And I think that's very important in the world we live in because people always want to drive. We want to make the world a better place. We want to make the world a better place. We want to be better. Whether we want to be a better football team, want to be, a better student, or we want to be better environmentally, X, Y, Z. That, in my opinion, stems from understanding, gaining more information, and that takes talking to people, learning from experiences and different perspectives. So it's very important because you get to gain knowledge and better set yourself up to be a better person, a better athlete, everything in between.
It's so easy for student athletes at Vanderbilt to stay inside what I call the Magoogan bubble. Stay in your sport or stay within just the athletes and not give two thoughts about what's outside of those things. And that's an easy way to go through college. And some people, that's their comfort zone, then they thrive right there. Then there are others, which it sounds like you're in the others category. You make the most of, because the student body at Vanderbilt, the faculty at Vanderbilt, the resources at Vanderbilt is so unique that the more that you can engross yourself in those other worlds. Is that your experience? Did you get outside that McGugan bubble your years at campus?
Yeah, 100%. And it's something that, I wasn't always comfortable with because I'm just a kid from New Jersey who I may not be, the smartest in the room, may not be the best athlete all the time. And I'm also from, a ways away. So it wasn't something that, as whoever listened to this, you don't have to be comfortable with it all the time, but it takes time to be comfortable with yourself and, reach those connections. But it's very important to me. And I definitely did that at Vanderbilt because the same way I'm passionate about football, and I used to watch YouTube videos all the time in middle school and high school, the same way that, my dad put a ball in my hand and wanted me to be the best athlete I could possibly be. The same passion I have for that and love for the game and, obsession, to be honest, with it
Mhm.
is like that for somebody else in a different area. It may be tennis, it may be business, it may be geology, it may be, I don't know what it is, but it's something that they have a passion for, an obsession over, an understanding of that, I have a football and I want somebody to support me in that and understand that. Just, ask me about that. So it takes nothing to do that to somebody else and learn more about who they are and what makes their heart beat.
No, that's so good, and it's so rare that student athletes make the time. You rarely have the time. It's making the time. But you've also had the unique experience of playing for a private, small institute, Vanderbilt, of course, and then going to a much larger state school at Auburn. And there are many, many differences. There's a lot of similarities, but I guess I want you to take us into the locker room or the culture or whatever you want to describe it to compare. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying it's different. It's not like you went from Vanderbilt to Northwestern or Vanderbilt to Stanford or Duke. You went to a much larger state institution, different experience altogether, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, everything's different from something as small as the size of campus and the amount of people that you see every single day and the interaction that you have. I mean, Vanderbilt, I think, if I remember correctly, is like 7,000 undergrad or 6,000, something like that. I would see the same people every single day in the same, concourse and just,
Yeah.
interact with the same people. That's good. That at Auburn, it was, also, to benefit you see different people every single day. They were connected to people, just the size of the school is a lot different than that plays into a part with obviously the fans and the investment you have within the programs and just the different fanfare that goes on throughout because just simply the school sizes are totally different. Like it's just totally different. And I got different experiences and it's something that I'm glad I got to experience things I did at Vanderbilt because it helped set me up to stay focused and be on track at Auburn and also, speak to my experiences and to lead the young guys and make sure they understand that things they have here are not at every single school. They must be appreciative of what they have. Continue to um, understand that they, they're in a good spot. So it's a lot different, but they each, uniquely are special places to me and to many other people.
The passion is there for both. I'm not questioning that at all, but you're right. It's the sheer volume. It's the
Yeah,
amount of people, it may be the resources that Auburn puts into their sports programs that Vanderbilt just hasn't historically hasn't. But you have to admit or deny that's your call. Have you ever thrown toilet paper at Toomer's Corner? I just don't get that tradition, but did you?
honestly, I have, and it's something that I didn't really get before
Yeah.
I got here. But there's nothing better than after a huge win and you're driving, down the street and you see toilet paper all on the trees. Like it feels good. Like I take a picture every time. I'm like, man, this is amazing. This is what college is all about. And it's something that the reason why I love it so much is because of tradition, right? It's something that means some of the people has met some people for years and will continue after us. So it's honestly, I didn't understand it at first, but I get a just sense of pride and tradition,
Well, you also got to participate in newer tradition at Vanderbilt, carrying the anchor.
Yes.
And I want you to, we've got just a couple more minutes, but I want you to share that experience because it's a fairly new tradition and not many ball players get to experience that.
Yeah, it's similar to having the captain's patch on your jersey. It's your representation of your family,
Mhm.
guys in that locker room, the coaching staff, everyone who's ever played at Vanderbilt, the university as a whole. The anchor means something to people, whether they played sports or not, or graduated from university or just associated in a way. The anchor means something to people. An anchor meant something to me at the time, and it still means something to me and will for the duration of my life. And being able to be elected to do that and that representation, that it's a feeling that I can't really describe because it's one it just it gives you a sense of pride. Like, man, like it just means I don't even know how to explain it because it just means so much to everybody involved because you're representing your name on the back, name on the front, the people, the coaches that's walking behind you, the players behind you, everybody who's ever worn black and gold. And you're walking out there, and this anchor is heavy, so you gotta have strength. You gotta your core gotta be tight. You gotta have some mental toughness
Mhm.
to carry it a length of ways. You gotta be passionate about it. It's so many different things going through your brain while you're doing it. And then the best part about it, also, you get to do it with one of your brothers. You can do it with one of your teammates. It's something that just feels amazing, and it's a sense of pride that you have. And I get excited just thinking about it, talking about it, because it means something. To be honest.
Tell me if I'm off mark or spot on. When you're carrying that anchor through Star Walk or through the crowd coming into the stadium, you've got that pride that you're just full of joy and whatever other emotions, but don't you dare smile because you're walking through. This is football time.
Yeah,
And
this
you got to
football.
have that serious. Tell me I'm wrong about that. You
No,
cannot
you're
have that
right. I mean,
smile.
I'll never forget my mom's like, you didn't wave at us. We were at Star Walk. We were carrying the anchor. I got a video, and I'm like, Mom, it's serious, right? It's time to go to battle. Like, this is what it feels like, back in the day, about to go to war, right? So I'm carrying the anchor. I'm ready to go. So yeah, it's something that you make sure your eyes are forward. Your helmet is on. You feel like
Uh,
armored and just ready to go. So definitely no smiles during that time.
yeah, you're in battle mode. You can't be smiling and looking around.
Um,
Man, that'd be a rookie move right there.
exactly.
But speaking of rookie moves, and we're got just a couple more minutes, Elijah, and I sure appreciate your time. You are embarking on the dream of many, but so few get to do this. You've got the NFL draft at the end of the month. You're working out hard in Baltimore. Can you share any of that emotions? Can you share any of the experience of your working out? I know you're going to visit. I don't know if this is it public what you're doing
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're going to be visiting, and I guess working out maybe for the Titans. So you're back in Nashville. So share a little bit of that journey with us, that peak that a lot of us never get to see.
Yeah, it's now that pro day is over. Pro day is more of a, I wouldn't say a stress filled kind of couple months just trying to, like the SAT. You study for the specific test. You got to do your best on the test in order to get to the next level, and that's what pro day is like. So now that that's over, the relief is done. You feel really good, and now you can step into football spaces, and this is a space where most of us as athletes feel comfortable. And it's something that I'm so thankful that I'm here, being able to experience these things because, again, being that kid from New Jersey, going to watch YouTube, and it was always something that you dream about. And it's the experiences that you never get back and want to cherish and be able to tell stories to the next generations. And it's something that I'm just so thankful, and it's allowed me to look back on my college career, appreciate the moments that I had and the experiences, and also understand that I have some confidence and some good football still left to play. Just being grateful to be able to represent school that I've been at, my family, the people that sacrificed, supported me, be here. So there's a sense of pride and a sense of gratitude for sure.
Do you know where you're going to be yet during the draft days?
Yeah, I'll probably be in New Jersey, hanging out with my family and the people that have supported me and lended a hand to propel me to be in the position that I am today. Because again, I'm a big believer nobody gets anywhere alone, and I am just a byproduct of the sacrifices of other people. And I'm truly a believer of that. And I want to be able to give back to them. And, it makes me happy. The things that I do, on the field, off the field, it brings me more joy to see them proud proud and happy of the things that I'm doing than it does my ego or anything myself, because the fact that they can have a sense of pride of who I am means the world to me.
What a mature perspective, because I don't hear that a lot from guys your age. But I can assure you, being a dad who has children close to your age, it's more pride for the parents to see their children do well. It's anything I may have ever accomplished on the athletic field. I'd much rather just see my children do what they're doing and enjoying what they're doing. But I got two more topics. I promise you just a couple of minutes. I want to talk about the podcast that you and another student athlete at Auburn have been doing. And I want to stress how impressed I am of the topic and that what you guys are doing to educate so many who have no clue. But I want to tie in because we're in the age of NIL and money just being out there. People in the not in the college world just think that the money's sitting there on trees and the athletes can just go and pluck it off anytime they want and just this. So talk about your podcast and why it's important that more listen who are in that space right now.
Yeah, so I do a podcast and episodes with Sophia Growth. She's a gymnast here at my previous university in Auburn, and she's a great person. And we do a podcast in partnership with the credit union that allows anybody who watches our page, and particularly our target audiences, high school and college athletes and people, on financial literacy. And this is a topic that's very important that most people don't have enough financial literacy, because the only way you learn about it is either through YouTube or what your parents teach you. And most people don't want to sit there and watch hour-long YouTube videos. And some people's parents aren't fortunate enough to have the funds to be able to even learn about financial literacy or even teach their their son or daughter about financial literacy. So it's something that for us, we wanted to use our platforms for positive and be able to be agents of change to continue to teach people about financial literacy. And it's specifically important in the age of NIL because student athletes are getting money that they've never seen before, sometimes more money than the people that they've ever been around in their lives. They need to understand how to manage it, how to do things the right way, whether that's taxes, savings, understand how to operate in a positive way with their money.
What's the name of the podcast?
Yeah, it's just Money Talks with Sophia and Elijah. So it's called Money Talks, and you can go on our Instagrams and check it out with the Auburn University Credit Union. They're amazing episodes. We talk about financial literacy, IRAs, checking, savings, credit scores, anything you could think of, you name it, and we got it. So,
when does each episode drop? What days?
We usually drop it once every 2 weeks. So we try to give our viewers a couple days of break, but we definitely going to hammer home the important stuff.
Well, will your respective schedules allow you to keep going forward? I know
it's difficult. I try to get back to Auburn and see the people that I share experiences with, and try to record episodes and just to make sure that we're continuing pumping out content. But Sophia's been great at communication and helping me out while I'm training to allow to record a handful of episodes together while I'm in Auburn, and then we have some in the vault, and then in the future hopefully we get some Zoom calls in and where I can make a trip to be able to record episodes and share the knowledge.
Elijah, I could keep you here for the next hour, but I'm going to be respectful of your time. I have so enjoyed our conversation tonight. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate it.
Guys, don't let Elijah's get out of your mind. You need to keep an eye on him because this man is going to be playing on Sundays coming next fall. And I suspect he doesn't care where he goes as long as he's on one of those rosters or competing. And you definitely have a fan here, my friend. So stick around. Let me sign off, but stick around. I got something to share with you. Please keep coming back on Tuesday nights. Guys, we've got more and more folks coming on. Like I said, scheduled out through sometime in July. And I'm going to keep doing these. We've got many, many more stories that we need to keep sharing. They're all so unique. You guys heard Elijah tonight. And I love hearing these stories each week, telling our journeys, telling our lessons. So thank you guys for coming again this week, and we'll catch you again next Tuesday. Anchor down.